Copyright on this material of Serious Questions belongs to Beverly Lutz, who is also the narrator for this series and author of the book God Doesn't Care What You Wear: The Limitations of Our Beliefs. These questions are done in a specific sequence, so if you haven't listened to the previous ones, please do so. Okay, on to serious question number 4, and perhaps the most serious and challenging. What is wrong with dying? No, of course, I know you do not want to die, and I most certainly do not want to die. I'm in love with life. I'm grateful for every sunrise and another opportunity to simply be alive, to experience a new day. I certainly feel I have a lot more life in me with many things to do, and I imagine you feel much the same about your life. So it's not about a preference around dying, yet it is a serious question, and from my perspective, one worthy of contemplation. Do you actually feel you have a choice over when or how you die? If that question is honestly examined, there is no other answer than no. So when you're in a deep sleep, you're essentially dead, right? In the sense that you are not conscious. So then, are you in charge of waking up from that deep sleep or of not waking up at all? We're reminded almost daily of bizarre accidents, of people dying in strange ways or not dying when they should have died. We have an illusion that we are in charge of life. Let me tell you a story to really drive this point home. I knew a young woman many years back, an Irish gal, very lovely inside and out. She was a professional dancer, engaged to a great guy, and life was good. One day she was driving home after a dress rehearsal. It was daylight, the roads were good, and she wasn't speeding. The light was green, and she was going through it when it just so happened an 18-wheeler ran the red light and slammed into her small car. She lost one arm and the fingers of her other hand. Her legs were broken in a way that meant she would never dance professionally again. Her fiancé decided, when she was still in hospital, that the engagement was probably not a good idea. As is so often the case, the unexpected had happened. She was following all the rules, and life unfolded in a totally unplanned and unpredictable manner. Do you think any of the folks on the 737 MAX 800 crashes thought that this was their last life event when they boarded the airplane? Are you still hanging on to thinking you can control when your final curtain drops? How is it that we have such a veiled illusion, a fantasy really, about dying? After all, the cycle of birth and death is the one thing we all know we have in common. No money is going to buy a different way when it's your curtain call. When it's your time, and your curtain will fall. I was playing backgammon many years ago with an enormously wealthy and worldly powerful man. Somehow in the conversation, I really don't remember how it came up, I asked him if he had ever really thought about the simple truth that no matter how much money he had, he wasn't taking it with him. Apparently, there was something about the way I said it that made this a reality for him. Because the next time I saw him, he said that our previous conversation had been instrumental in his changing his life and his focus. So is there a part of you, like this man, that clings to an illusion that although death is certain for everyone else, it doesn't really include you? While your reaction may be to brush off that idea, just sit with this and see if you can find that piece of you that defies dying. Are you able to honestly embrace the reality that you have no idea what the next 5 minutes will bring? And what if you knew for certain that this were your last day of life on planet Earth? How would you spend it? Would you be absorbed with this current world situation, allowing fear to grip you? Or would you be relishing every single moment, choosing with care where to focus your energy? What we have been witnessing and experiencing is how we seemingly are, globally and personally, addicted to attempting to control life. Not just this virus situation, but life itself. And life will not be controlled. While we may say we know that to be true, it is nevertheless not how we generally respond to life. A dear friend passed away recently, not from the virus, but from the unexpected. She had been having some back issues and went in for a serious surgery. The couple of days in ICU were touch and go for her, yet she pulled through quickly. When she was transferred to a less critical care unit, after a couple of days, the person serving meals unknowingly gave my friend dinner. Of course, she was hungry for real food after what had been a week since her surgery, and so she ate it, when it turned out she was still to be on soft foods only. In the night, she vomited and choked and got liquid in her lungs. She died that morning. My friend had successfully survived her surgery and was well into recovery. She wasn't supposed to die. In relationship to the virus, we need to recognize that a virus is a living thing, regardless of whether or not it was made in a lab or a bat soup. And it will run its course, whether we like it or not. Could it perhaps be that measures attempting to control the virus are actually prolonging its virulence? Can you personally see a correlation between the response to this pandemic and a desire to control the outcome? And why do we attempt to prolong life, to defy the natural unfolding? I mean, someone of age 85 can be considered to have had a life well lived, wouldn't you say? They have experienced much. Why are we so attached to keeping them alive? What is the real reason we strive to keep people from dying? When we attempt to control life or to sustain it unnaturally with life support systems, for example, who are we really doing this for? For the person or for ourselves? It's an uncomfortable question, yet could it be that all of this is to keep us from the desperate thought of dying ourselves? If we can kill off this virus, then we will survive, even though there is no absolute assurance of that. As we contemplate the issue of dying, if we are open to our own vulnerability, we will hit our big fear button. Any attempt at controlling life in any form is simply an illusionary attempt at keeping the fear of the end of who we consider ourselves to be at bay. After all, death will mean the end of this personality called Beverly or Annie or John. We humans, it seems, are geared to survival, and we cling to our own life, desperate to hang on as long as we can. I used to fly a lot, and one of the routes was from London to New York. In those days, I flew a lot on Pan Am, and the London-New York flight that I often took was Pan Am 103. In fact, I had been on that very flight just days prior to the incident when Pan Am Flight 103 exploded from a bomb over Lockerbie, Scotland, killing all on board. I can still recall where I was and what I was doing when I heard the news and how seriously shaken I was. As I was very familiar with this flight, I could even easily imagine what would have been happening as the flight attendants would have begun preparing for the dinner service. Now, clearly anyone listening to me here recognizes without argument that I had not had a choice in the matter of being on that particular flight or the other. Would you agree? The realization that I could have died really hit me. It wasn't long after that I made some very serious life changes. So back to wanting to control life and its unfoldings. We now have an incredible rush to get a vaccine to avoid getting this virus because we don't want to be sick, and more importantly, so that the possibility of dying is greatly reduced or indeed avoided. Or rather, that is the perception. I find it interesting that it's not been mentioned that there has been no success in creating vaccines for the earlier coronaviruses, SARS and MERS. Yet in a matter of a few months, it's been heralded that there are now several effective vaccines for COVID-19. I was shocked to hear a physician say on TV that we will only, quote, "we will only have normalcy when everyone has had the vaccine," unquote. Seriously? Do you buy that? And of course, as I've already mentioned, everyone has the choice to get the vaccine or not. No one's right and no one's wrong. This is a personal preference. And if you get the vaccine, you are doing so because you believe in its protection. So by virtue of the protection of the vaccine, you should not be concerned if someone you know chooses not to get the vaccine. In large part, I see the media's presentation as being significantly responsible for keeping fear in front of everyone. As well, it seems there has been a lot of political game playing, furthering the separation of people. And separation itself creates fear. Add in the fake news that has made any kind of fact-checking unreliable, and it's easy to see how this further exacerbates fear. I can't trust anyone or anything anymore. Just in realizing that the illusion of trust has been smashed, do you feel unsafe? Any time we attempt to control life, if we go down through the layers, we will end up with our driving human need to feel safe. The dissolution of institutions that is happening all around us, the crumbling of the familiar, combined with a previously unseen world political arena, then throw in the realization that news can no longer be viewed as it historically has been, and it becomes very easy to see how the very fabric of a sense of safety in life is no more. Now, could it be that the drive to kill off this virus or prevent getting sick or to prevent people from dying is perhaps related on a deeper level to the need to feel safe? The reality is that neither you nor I have the faintest idea as to when it will be our time to exit this existence. Yet death, we know, is the one thing in our life as a human being that is absolutely assured. So instead of living in fear of being sick or of dying, instead of creating stories about events that don't exist in this moment, in an effort to control that which cannot be controlled, why not live life to its fullest? It's your choice. Do you want to be living with all the stories of what ifs? Or do you choose to live with what is true for you? Not everyone else, but for you in this moment. I wish you great health until your time is up. Please take care of yourself. Your health is in very large part in your hands. Don't be putting the responsibility on those in healthcare. Be proactive in your own health. And above all, I wish you the courage to sit with some of these questions so that you might see how your involvement, your attachment to this current world situation is keeping you in your own self-made prison of fear. By the way, courage comes from the French word le cœur, meaning the heart. So I wish you a brave heart so that you will live each day as though it were your last. And remember that one day, this day will be your last.